Hey there! Welcome back to my channel. Today, we will be discussing an important subject that is crucial to research, namely the conceptual framework. The conceptual framework is an essential component of any research study and can guide your research design and analysis. This video will cover everything you need to know about the conceptual framework. What is a conceptual framework? A conceptual framework is a visual or written representation of a researcher's idea or theory. It is an explanation of the relationships between the different variables or concepts that the researcher wants to study. The framework can provide a theoretical foundation for the research, guide the data collection and analysis process, and help interpret the results. Why is a conceptual framework essential? A conceptual framework is essential because it helps the researcher to clarify their research questions and hypotheses and to develop a clear and coherent plan for data collection and analysis. It also helps to ensure that the research is grounded in theory and that the research design is appropriate for the research questions. Additionally, the conceptual framework can help identify gaps in the existing research and suggest areas for future research. Components of a conceptual framework. Several components are commonly included in a conceptual framework. These include research problem. The research problem is the starting point for conceptual framework development. It is the question that the researcher wants to answer through their research. Concepts are the key ideas or variables the researcher wants to study. They are often defined in terms of their relationship to other concepts in the framework. Relationships. The framework represents relationships between concepts with arrows or lines. These relationships can be causal or correlational, and they help explain how the different concepts are related. Assumptions. These are the underlying beliefs or values that influence the researcher's interpretation of the data. They are essential to identify because they can affect the validity of the research findings. Context. The context of the research is the broader social, cultural, and historical setting in which the research is taking place. It is essential to consider the context because it can affect the interpretation of the research findings. Sample conceptual framework. Sample 1. This is an example of a diagram that illustrates the conceptual framework for a research study on how the use of social media relates to mental health. In this conceptual framework, the central focus is on the correlation between social media use and mental health. The two main factors influencing this relationship are time spent on social media and content type consumed. Time spent is the total time a person spends on social media platforms. In contrast, content type refers to the nature of the consumed material, example, positive, negative, or neutral. The framework suggests that social media use and mental health are connected through these two factors. For example, spending a lot of time on social media and consuming harmful content may harm their mental health. On the other hand, reducing the time spent on social media and increasing exposure to positive content can have a favorable impact on an individual's mental well-being. This framework helps guide the research design and analysis by focusing on specific variables and their relationships. For example, researchers might use surveys to gather data on participants' social media use, including the time spent and the type of content consumed. They could then compare these variables to mental health measures, such as anxiety or depression symptoms, to see if there is a correlation between social media use and mental health outcomes. Sample 2. This is a simple example diagram that illustrates the conceptual framework for a research project about the factors that influence the academic achievement of high school students, without providing specific details. This conceptual framework primarily concentrates on the academic achievement of senior high school students and the factors that impact it. The framework is divided into three main categories of factors: learner factors, school factors, and external factors. Learner factors refer to individual characteristics of the students that may impact their academic performance, such as their prior academic achievement, motivation, learning style, and socioeconomic background. School factors refer to the institutional characteristics that may influence academic performance, such as school resources, teacher quality, and teaching methods. Finally, external factors refer to the contextual factors outside the school environment that may impact academic performance, such as family background, sociocultural factors, and economic conditions. The framework suggests that these three factors are interconnected and affect academic performance. For example, learner factors such as motivation and learning style may influence the effectiveness of teaching methods used by the school. Similarly, external factors such as family background may impact a student's motivation and socioeconomic status, affecting their academic performance. This framework can guide the research design and analysis by identifying specific variables within each category that can be measured and compared to academic performance outcomes. For example, researchers might use surveys and educational records to gather data on student characteristics, school resources, and external factors and then analyze the relationships between these factors and academic performance measures such as grades and test scores. Sample 3. Here's a detailed sample diagram of a research conceptual framework on the factors affecting the academic performance of senior high school learners. In this conceptual framework, the central focus is on the educational performance of senior high school students and the factors that affect it. The framework is divided into three main categories: learner characteristics, school characteristics, and external factors. Learner characteristics refer to individual features of the students that may impact their academic performance, such as their prior academic achievement, motivation, learning style, and socioeconomic background. School characteristics refer to the institutional features that may influence academic performance, such as school resources, teacher quality, and teaching methods. Finally, external factors include the contextual factors outside the school environment that may impact academic performance, such as family background and sociocultural factors. The framework suggests that these three factors are interconnected and affect academic performance. For example, learner characteristics such as motivation and self-efficacy may influence educational performance measures such as grades and test scores. Likewise, school characteristics such as teacher quality and teaching methods may impact student engagement, affecting academic performance. Finally, external factors such as family background and sociocultural factors may also impact academic performance through their influence on learner and school characteristics. This framework can guide the research design and analysis by identifying specific variables within each category that can be measured and compared to academic performance outcomes. For example, researchers might use surveys and educational records to gather data on student characteristics, school resources, and external factors and then analyze the relationships between these factors and academic performance measures such as grades and test scores. Take note, as a researcher, you must ensure that the specific variables or measures you have written in every factor are only pertinent to your studies. Therefore, only write some variables if covered in your subproblems. In conclusion, the conceptual framework is essential to any research study. It provides a theoretical foundation for the research, helps to guide the research design and analysis, and can help to identify gaps in the existing research. Therefore, if you are conducting research, it is essential to take the time to develop a clear and coherent conceptual framework that will guide your research and help to ensure that your findings are valid and reliable. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the following video.